Hey guys, welcome back. So last week we saw a break of a downtrend, a retest, and a further push higher. And this morning we're seeing weakness in the market because the Fed announces its next interest rate hike, and therefore, with the big tech earnings coming up, the market futures are slightly weak. So at this point, right, we still haven't broken through this major volume shelf at 4,100. So till we get in close above 4,100, right? The path to 4,300, 4,400 seems uncertain, right? Alternatively, though, something you have to monitor and keep your mind is a lot of stocks are overbought, right? We've had a pretty impressive month of rallies, which, generally tend to lead to a certain kind of pullback that can ensue before they continue progressing higher. And given that this is an important week with a lot of catalysts, so one should keep in mind the alternate, which is possible. And I'm still, of the opinion, given that the market has, somewhat choppily moved higher as opposed to, a good balance of buyers and sellers, I definitely, you can see that I do see some negative divergence forming on the smaller time frame. So I think whether you're bullish or bearish, right, at some point this week, we will, retest this channel, retest this trend line. Either this retest bounce is gonna fail, right? And come retest lower before we progress higher. Or if this retest, holds through, then we're very likely, right? What are we very likely gonna do? We're very likely gonna have a very powerful rally to the upside, right? To finish off this B wave before you come down further for the C wave. So right now, what I am watching is what we do, right? As we approach this area, I'm still primarily, given the divergence that is forming and how some of the stocks are looking, I'm very primarily still watching, a bearish week that gets bought up and then we progress higher. Like in both cases, it's not when 4,300, 4,400 kind of hits. It's, yeah, it's not if, it's whether when, So I'm just, again, 4,100, as I showed you, very important volume shelf in the zone, right? We break above, we should have a very clear path up to 4,300 at the very least, right? And a more bullish target would take you to 4,450, 4,500. So yeah, the bull and bear versions, I just wanted to kind of discuss that. With that being said, let's kind of look at this week's watch list. One of the stocks that I have keeping an eye on, right, and looks interesting is Netflix. I do think that if Netflix, were to break 355, I do think that it's, into a possible retest down to 316 on Netflix. So that should make for, a nice 30-40 short lower. So Netflix, honestly, is kind of the first stock that I am watching to see if, we continue to remain bearish where Netflix kind of headed. As you can see, every time Netflix has kind of, come up to this point on the resistance index, it tends to have some kind of downtrend, right? So yeah, at minimum, I'd say if it breaks 355, then it's coming down to 330 and 317. So Netflix is kind of the first stock that I am watching. The next stock that kind of interests me is Zoom. The reason for that is it's kind of lagging, the trash overgrowth stock, sell off, and it still hasn't progressed in the C wave. So Netflix, right, as long as it holds above 62, right, the minute it breaks above 77, it's broken its downtrend, right? And this is a very nice, what tends to happen, right, when you have a chart like this is you tend to have, this zigzag kind of chart. So yeah, that's primarily why I'm watching Zoom. I do think it has room for that oversold kind of bounce, right? So if we do break 4,100, Zoom would make a very nice, candidate to move higher. Another stock that if 4,100 breaks this week, right, and the market reacts positively to the Fed, another stock that's, looking well is LaDuc, right? If the week is bearish, then LaDuc will probably retest 67, but I don't think 67 breaks, right? Between 74 and 67 is kind of a good demand zone for LaDuc. Once this breaks, then I think LaDuc will come up to retest this 200-day at 114, give it, 2 to 3 months. Another stock like Zoom that could have potential returns for higher. Another stock again, this is on a longer time frame that looks interesting is ASAM, right? Bearish week, we're very likely, come back down to demand. But yeah, again, it has a lot of room higher in the next couple of months. So I kind of wanted to go through some examples of oversold stocks that could have room, in the coming months. Just as, we discussed Amazon and Google and Tesla having those bounces a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, let's look at the next one. The next one is XLE. The reason, again, I bring this up is you could clearly see there's some kind of head and shoulders forming. This level at 92 has acted as immense resistance. So if this 92, ends up rejecting, it could, be in for a very bearish C wave leg, right? I would like, confirmation break 87, breaks 87, it should have a lot of room to the downside. So yeah, stays below 92, as long as it breaks 87, this trend line that's been holding as support, then XLE could be another stock with a lot of room to the downside. Another oversold, junk stock that could be interesting, right? XPEP maybe go sideways for another couple of weeks, but the sideways chopping is going to end at some point, and right now it's kind of flagging, right? So as long as it stays in the trend line, then it's very likely you're not going to chop around. But as soon as we break, right, I'd say 11.11, then XPEP should have no resistance up to 15 and even $17 on XPEP. So yeah, that's another oversold stock that I kind of wanted to bring up to your attention, right? And the last one is gold. Gold's had a very nice bullish couple of months, right? And we had this higher for a B wave. So now for gold, what I kind of see is it is against a major weekly resistance level. So I do think that below 179, gold, probably pulls back to 174. So, a short-term chase that probably stays chopped sideways, then goes up to, trap bulls before it comes down. So that's bigger picture, kind of what I have for gold, right? Someone asked me for gold, so thought I'd include it in this week's watch list. And yeah, let's kind of look at the dollar and the 10-year. The dollar, again, we're still, you can see we've been sideways for like 2.5 weeks, right? So something's got to give, right? Either the support is going to hold and we have a massive move up on the dollar, or, it just doesn't have any strength. And once 101.38 breaks, then, there's nothing stopping the dollar down to 99.5, right? So that's a nice 2% lower. So yeah, something's going to give out this week, right? Even the wicks, for example, is on this long-term trend line all the way from 2018. So either this is going to break down, or what looks more likely is, equities retrace, right? Reset their RSIs, reset the number of buyers and sellers, and then they continue to progress higher. So yeah, wicks and dollar are on supports, right? And the 10-year does look bouncy up to the top of that channel, right? Still has room up to 3.68. So yeah, it's kind of looking a little bleak for bulls this week with economic news coming up. But yeah, 4,100 is the level to break. Once it breaks, then there should be nothing in its way. All right, thank you so much. Have a great week.